Okay, so in this week's reading of the Torah portion, in this chapter 11, it's not the bankruptcy chapter. This is called chapter 11.
Parashah's Gracious.
Yes, yes. In the book of Genesis, I just like, we're told of an idea that germinated after the big flood. And like every idea had its reason, the front reason and the back reason, you know, like the one that you come to the therapist with your reason why you come and the real reason why you're coming. Okay, so what was the idea? So after the flood, some people thought they're going to avoid another disaster, okay? And how they're going to avoid the disaster? Not by treating the cause of the disaster, which was deprivation and lack of morals or whatever, but they wanted to tackle the symptoms, and the symptoms was the water coming down. So apparently they had 3 reasons for building the Tower of Babel, and one of them was they're going to gather all the people together and in one area of the world, and they're going to collaborate more effectively. Like, think, Silicon Valley, so that everybody is there. Think, Playa del Rey, so everybody goes there. So they're getting everybody together so they can collaborate more effectively on discovering the forces of nature. What made this happen? As a natural event. So once they build the city, they gather everybody come to that place, the cradle of civilization. And now everybody is in it together, right? Like, they started the tower, 60-story high. I figured it's higher than the Eiffel Tower. I'm from France, so I can tell you a little bit higher, 60-story high, higher than Eiffel Tower. And they figured that with all the science that they know and they put together everybody, they're going to turn their back to divine intervention. In other words, we're going to do without the godly aspect of why we got this disaster of a flood, but we're going to deal with it as a purely, natural event. And come in. And they wanted to be basically the master of their destiny. And for that, they were ready, in order to achieve that, they were ready to join all the forces and unite all the races. Thank you for coming. That's so sweet. Shabana, help yourself.
Hi, Shabana.
And they were ready to join forces, and the idea was to unite all the races, and all the different classes of society together to join forces against the divinity that brought them to that big flood. So now we read the verses for this chapter 11. It says, come. First of all, they have to gather people, motivate them, and come. Let's build for ourselves a city and a tower. So they build the city, and at its head, means on the top of the tower will be in the heaven, and we'll make a name for
the city
ourselves. You're dealing with people, they're talking to the population. We're going to make a name for ourselves. We're going to be famous. And because we are afraid that if we don't do that, we will disappear from the world. Another flood is going to come and we'll be gone. So let's work together for our survival. We are in danger. We experienced the danger. Now we're going to do something that is going to take away the danger. Okay, that's the idea.
How many generations was this after the
It's a good question. I'm going to do the calculation, and Aisha is going to help with the calculation.
Sure.
Okay, so it all sounds like, we're the spirit together, and, we're doing this for the good of the people. We're going to protect ourselves. We're going to protect society. It's going to be good for everybody.
Sounds like what's going on now.
Thank you for saying that. You come and give the speech.
I'm just trying to think of the
Okay, so what does it say? Right away after that, we say God descended to see the city and the tower that the sons of men had built. What does it mean God descended? Doesn't mean it's like God is everywhere. What does it mean God descended? It means that there was a level of love, which is the highest level, and now went down to the level of complete justice. Yes, justice, rigorous, structure. So in other words, God saw the depth of their intention. It's so deep down. Also, you can say he descended means he went deep down into what they're really thinking. Or what were the real motives of these people? What they said, we're going to make a name for ourselves. We're going to be very proud. And they knew the tower cannot prevent the flood. But they insisted. They did it for their ego, and so their ego took over the whole business. Because if you do it for one thing, I was always very, very, I always had this, every time when it's Parashah Noach, I keep repeating this thing that when people start something, I call it the Tower of Babel syndrome. You start with a very good intention.
Right.
Yeah, it's very good intention. We're going to do good for the world. We're going to save humanity. The next thing you know, the very thing that they're doing is killing humanity and destroying humanity. Okay? Why?
How does that happen?
How does that happen? Why?
They have such good intentions.
Okay, exactly. How does that happen? What is the syndrome over here? Because the people that started this, when they tell you it's for the good of humanity, they're really looking for their pocket, for their kavod, for their honor, for their ego, for their thing.
But
And
is
so
there anybody left that's really doing it for the good of humanity?
there's some, yeah.
There's got to be somebody.
Yeah. There's some people. So in other words,
Sorry.
What happened? What happened because we hear the story all the time. The Midrash says, and all the kids learn it in kindergarten, that they started building this tower for the good of humanity. And by the time they're finishing building, or not even by the time they're finishing, but after a while, if a brick, it's hard to put that thing up there. If a stone went down, it was a disaster. Everybody, what a big disaster. If a person got injured and died, they did nothing. They didn't care anymore. So how do we get to the point where the original intention is gone? Is because deep down, the original intention had the front motive, what you express to people to make them come and work for you, and the back in your mind, what you really want. That's what I say.
Sounds like a bait and switch. Classic.
Yeah. So what looked like a good intention for the society soon became a glorification of the ego and a material gain purpose. So now we have a population that is scared because they're scared that this flood is going to happen again. And the calculation is the Tower of Babel happened in the Jewish year 1996. Okay, 1996 of the Jewish year.
No.
And the flood happened before in 1656. Quick calculation.
That's 3 times.
340 years. In the days, okay, let's say in the day people lived a long time, but this was such a disaster that apparently it was like even 340 years later, people remember it. Apparently there were still things that were lying around that had not been finished from that disaster.
That's a long time for people to be holding on to that.
But I like the idea that if you think it's a long time, some people think it's not a long time because in the days people lived longer. But if you think that it's a long time, okay? So then what did these people do? They said, listen, 340 years ago something happened and it's going to happen again. And we now going to control you with that fear. Look, come over here, build a tower, abandon the place where you live, move to this place. And the whole thing is going on like it's going to happen again. 340 years. They're using an argument that date from that.
I know, but they don't remember that Hashem told them that swear that it's not going to do this ever again.
That there was a promise.
They
The
don't
Keshet.
remember.
You selective memory. They don't remember what God tell them He's not going to have a flood anymore.
Really?
No, they're using whatever they're using. Okay? It's like now when you have a study and you have people that are doing a meta study, they're picking the study they want for their meta study. This one they don't take, this one they don't take. Oh, this one is interesting, it serves a purpose. It's the same thing, it's selection, okay? We all do that. I'm not saying we all do that. It's a human thing, so fine. So they said, come together in the city, world together, we'll vanquish the forces of nature. So man is out there united against a common enemy, right? We have all these people, there's one enemy, and we're going to defeat this enemy. We're going to fight it.
And that's Hashem.
Huh?
It's an invisible enemy.
And that's Hashem. They wanted to fight Hashem.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened now, because the motivation is very important when you haranguing a crowd, you have to have a big motivation. So now you have the fear. The enemy number one has to be conquered, and we're all in this together. Okay, that's what happened at the time of the Tower of Babel. That's good. So the people, they follow the leaders, they do their best, they follow the orders, they work hard, and they're keeping up with the project. But in the end, the leader's motivation was not what it appeared. It was not, like I said, I don't think these people really wanted to protect humanity. What they wanted is build something, and it's for their own, profit. So it was a power trip, an ego-fulfilling dream. The people were used to achieve the leader's dream for power. How else can you explain that the lives of the people now became less important than the stones and the brick that was brought up to the top of the tower, right? So now, how did the people get into a trap like this? Okay, imagine, because before the days of internet communication, and I'm thinking, big gathering, and there are people, and there's no entertainment, there's no Netflix, there's nothing to spend time with, no distraction. The big distraction was somebody's giving a speech in the middle of the city. That was the big thing, the big event. People used to go, like even in time of the Roman, people used to go listen to speeches. That's why we have so many good speeches from the Roman time. But, okay, so they have fanfare, they announce, and the speaker is going to be there on the top. And finally, he will tell the story of the big flood. You got to scare the people. You got to tell them there's a danger coming up. So how scary it would be, the dead bodies again would be all over. You cannot even count how many people died. The number of dead, it was dreadful. So people really got scared. And they make provision. They told them how many people are going to die this next time. And there's calculations, they figure out. And there's going to be a second wave, a second flood. And every time it rains, what happened is people think, okay, is this it? Is this it now? Is this the beginning of the new second wave flood? So every time people re-experience this fear that they've been, talked about. And if you tell them, it's just the rain, it's just the winter, it's raining. Or, they look at you like you're out of your mind, You see, people are scared, and the main focus is to be safe. Or not just to be safe, but to feel safe. So they'll do anything to feel safe. So people that are driven by fear, they're not only compliant, they obey 2 orders, okay? Because they're afraid. If you tell them this is going to save you, then listen to you. What do the media do? It's a very simple recipe, 3 steps. Fear. Fear. I have a solution. You listen to me, I tell you the solution. Okay, that's how the media operates, right? So here's the same thing. People who are driven by fear, they comply and they feel good because now they're doing the right thing to feel safe. They're doing the right thing. And if somebody's not doing the right thing, they're going to be really mad at them because anyone remotely seeming to disobey order is looking like they're endangering them. So scared people need safety, and they will do anything you tell them to avoid exposure to danger because they're scared. So now this thing with the scared is very interesting because when a person is scared, it just takes a... People are scared, their brain doesn't function. But before we do that, okay, so now I tell you a story. Them goes to the store and he's with his friend the gypsy. So he goes to the store and he steals the candy bar. So he said to his friend, look, I'm going to show you how I steal a candy bar. Nobody is going to see it. So he goes and he steals the candy bar. The lady doesn't see anything. Take the candy bar, put it in his pocket, sleek. And he tells his friend, look how I did it. So the gypsy says to him, you think you're stealing something? Like you're going to teach me how to steal? Nobody can steal like me. Forget, I'm going to show you how to do it. So he goes to the counter and he tells the lady, give me the candy bar. And the lady gives him the candy bar. And he says to him, I'm going to show you a magic trick with this candy bar. So he opens the candy bar and he eats it and he looks at her right in the face while he's eating the candy bar. And he's finishing eating the candy bar. So then she says, yeah, like, what's your magic trick? Yeah, what's the trick? So he says to her,
it's gone.
Now look in this guy's pocket. So there are things that people do that look like, it's magic, but it's not really magic. There's a system to everything. Mm-hmm. So what I want to tell you and share with you, these things that, I've learned about hypnosis. And the first thing that, there's all kinds of hypnosis. There's stage hypnosis where people, have a whole bunch of people and they make them do crazy stuff on the stage. That's one type. And then there's another type that we use for curing people of phobia or regression or doing all kinds of things to get, smoking, interaction, all kinds of things. For the good of the person comes to you, says, I want to stop smoking, so you do hypnosis, they stop smoking, and that's really great. So it's the people come and they agree on what's gonna happen to them. And then there's other kinds of hypnosis that I want to tell you today. This is used for all kinds of people and not necessarily for the person's advantage. Not necessarily for the person's advantage. Like, I have this book over there. So there's some people, they use hypnosis to make people tell them things about the secret of their country or whatever it is, okay? Okay, so, but one thing that is the most important thing that you have to know about hypnosis, you gotta choose the right people. You gotta pick the people that are already wanting to be hypnosed. That are suggestible. And that's why when you do stage hypnosis, you have these people that are, taking a whole bunch of people and then some of them get sorted out and sent back to their seat. Right. Why? Because the hypnotist understands these people are not going to do it, so I don't want to show off in front of everybody and they're not doing it. So he sent them back. So there's two things that are very important. The person who is hypnosed, which is the client, the patient, whatever the subject, I would say, and the hypnotist, who is the operator. He is doing it to the other person. These two people is the most important part of the whole thing. Who they are, that's what makes the whole difference.
What else is involved?
Who? Okay, so let's go see what else is involved. So the first thing is the operator, the one who is going to do the hypnosis. He has to be confident, he has to be ready, he has to line up all his talk, he has to know all his speech, he has to set the stage, he has to do the advertisement, he has to do the announcement. It's very, involved. He's got to prepare people to say, I can do it, and I'm going to do it, okay? And he has to feel confident he can do it. That's the first thing. So Chase Hughes also says, when you see a person, see the brain, not the mask, because nearly everybody, apparently very few people don't, nearly everybody present themselves a certain way, but that's not who they are inside. So the people show themselves, let's say, confident and smiling, but he said inside is always a little scared child. And that's what he uses when he does his work with intelligence and everything, because he knows this guy's a terrorist, but really inside, he's a little scared child. So when you approach people from who they are instead of what they show you, it's a different thing. But anyway, so the way the subject is chosen is very important. Number one, you don't want to choose me. You don't want to choose me. I think too much. I'm critical. I'm analytical. Yeah, another one of you. Yeah, exactly. Because by nature, you want somebody who's going to follow instruction that is influenceable in thought and in action. It's a bit like you choose your ingredient. According to the ingredient, you're going to have a dough, you know? Okay, so hypnotic parlance is called suggestibility. It's like you take the temperature of the person, you know what they're holding. So people that are going to be are suggestible. The second step is called induction. So what I want you to remember, because we're going to go back now, retrace everything. I'm going to test you guys. After I said everything, I'm going to test you. The first thing, choosing the person. Choosing the person. You want somebody who is suggestible.
What are the criteria for a person?
That is suggestible. I'm not going to give a speech on the whole. This is like, otherwise we're not finishing tonight. But I can tell you later. Yeah. So the second step is called induction. Okay. First you choose the person, then you're going to do induction. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of inductions, but this is where the action starts. You have all kinds of techniques, and the subject is encouraged to focus on one thing. Okay? You choose your people, you know who you're talking to, and now you make them focus on the one thing, just one. Okay? And because then they can relax and let go. Everything else is going to be pushed aside. Everything else is going to be pushed aside. So the purpose of this is to get rid of anything else besides the focus. The purpose is to distract the conscious mind. You're focusing on one thing. The conscious mind is equivalent to the thinking process. So the analytical mind is sitting in the frontal lobe, and all the critical questioning of the person's brain, that's, you know, over here, now is going down the brain, down the drain. As being like, you know, you erase like this. Chuck, 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 chuck,
Right,
chuck,
they
chuck,
do
chuck.
that. They make you watch and think.
They make you, there's a lot of induction. It's not called falling asleep.
Into a subconscious
Exactly. It's a lot of induction. There's many different kind of induction. But basically what you do is like, whatever technique you're going to use, you're going to make the person focus on the one thing. And there's one thing that works for the vast majority of the time. For people to focus on one thing is fear. Fear, some people say the initials of false evidence appearing real.
Wow.
It's a fear. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. That's why you're fearing it is going to happen in the future. So, but you think for sure it's going to be, yeah, it's going to happen. So it's a false evidence. It appears real. The fear gets in the brain, it eradicates the thinking process. Who has not said, I was so panicked, I didn't know what I was doing anymore. No? When you have a lot of fear, you don't know what you were doing. You do irrational things, you do things that make no sense. You say, what did you do? I was so afraid.
That's my middle name.
So what happened is, when the fear comes in, part of the brain, especially the cognitive, logical, reasoning brain, shuts off. And it's a great way to focus on the point that the operator is trying to bring that subject on. And as I say, there's many ways to individualize the induction for each person, but fear works 99.99% of the time. Okay. I mean, an hypnosis is not going to use fear as an induction. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Somebody doesn't know. But again, I'm going to test you, so I'm going to make it easy for you guys. The first thing is the choice of the person. The second thing is the focusing and taking off the rational mind. All right.
Focusing on one thing.
Yeah, you focus on one thing.
And it's usually 99.9% it's fear.
Fear will work on 99.99% of the time. Like, we are at war. So it's a word that he chose like that. It's not just by accident. And the imagery. So, imagery, you see a lot of things and they repeat themselves. So it gets into your brain because now you feel there, you nearly smell the dead body. It's like you feel the stress from the hospital work. It's like you are now in a complete, trance. And the words that are chosen are very specific. So together, you use the image, you use the 5 senses, and you call into action to make the state even deeper and more real and deeper and deeper. Now, before you go to any next stage, it's very important to check always that the person that you're hypnotizing is following your orders, okay? Because you don't want to tell people do something and they don't go do it. So you, for example, for hypnosis, very often people will take the hand of the person and, take it and see if it drops. Like, are you completely out of it? Or they'll tell people, nod your head when you are there, when you see this. And if the person is in a trance, but they go like that and nod their head, then they're with you, okay? So little thing, little increment, like they say, cut the slamming, just a little slice, a little slice, a little slice, a little, until you get them to do exactly what you want them to do. And it's very important to check before going to the next stage. That's what we said. And so very often you see that the person now is ready, and it's like stamped. That's it. Now you're completely controlled by the hypnosis. And the deeper the state is, the better results. Okay. Again, I'm talking like this is a general hypnosis in general, and that usually people to make the person feel better, right? But I want you to know that we're in a situation, I want you to hear what I'm saying and like you said, apply it to different situations. Now, come the most exciting part. The suggestion and the orders to change the pattern of thoughts and behavior. These have been prepared in advance. They're the meat of the sandwich, like really getting a bite now. They have to be formulated in the affirmative because the brain doesn't register the negative. So now that we have the orders and the suggestion, like we're going to tell people do this, do that. So for somebody like, let's say, who goes to the hypnotist because now he wants to stop smoking. So that's when you now put in place the suggestion and the orders that he doesn't need the smoke anymore. Relaxation, he can relax without the smoke, that whatever they're going to tell him, so that his mind is reset. It's a reset in the brain of the person. That's when they are under total control, and that's when you reset. So now there is sentences that are used to create confusion. Confusion creates the fastest result, because when people feel they are drowning, they will reach anything that is thrown to them as a solid object, right? So confusion, and by the way, if you know the story of Joseph, when he asked the guy who was with him in jail to talk to the king when he comes out, when he's liberated and he's saved from prison, he said to him, go, when you come out, because he told him he was going to come out. When you come out, talk to the king so that I get saved, because I'm an innocent person. And so, what was wrong in doing that? What is wrong? I mean, this guy's going to come out. He's going to go serve the king. He's going to have direct access to the king. What was wrong in asking the guy to do that? And the commentary explained that this guy, he was not a trustworthy guy. He was not. So, no, the baker. So you do not. I think it was the winemaker. Whatever.
The winemaker.
The winemakers. the winemaker got out, but what was wrong with yourself asking such a thing? I mean, you have to do something to help yourself. What was wrong? It's because you know these guys are not reliable. You know they hate you. You know they despise you. You know they don't want to do anything good for you, even though you were good to them. So why do you ask him to help you? It's like you're drowning in the ocean in a stormy sea, and there's a piece of straw and you're holding on to it. That's not going to save you. So, but as I said, on Joseph's level, it was accounted that this is something wrong. But a normal person, is confused and is panicked, and you throw them something, they're gonna grab onto it, anything, they'll grab onto anything. And so this is what happened, that when you confuse the mind goes crazy when it's confused. Mind likes logic. So when it gets confused, it'll grab onto anything that makes the smallest tiny little sense and grabs onto that and hold on to it for dear life. So the hypnosis, what it does is confusing. And the more he confuses the person, every time he throws a little bit of something, the person just grabs it and hold on to it now. So the more confusion there is, the more you're controlling the person, basically. Okay, so the hypnosis practitioner will make sure that all the statements and all the suggestions that are spoken, and again, I want you to translate this, okay, in the situation we're in, and are spoken with utmost sincerity, okay, and certainty and gravity. You speaking, telling the person, I'm doing this for your own good. It's for your own good. And I'm serious, and I know this for sure. After you rack their brain of making them like they don't know what's going on anymore, then you have a person who all of a sudden they look like they know what they're talking about. So everybody's going to grab onto anything he'll say. Okay?
Any suggestions you make?
Any suggestion, and also any person that shows up and so like, I know what I'm talking about. You don't, but I do. Okay, so everybody's gravitating on that person. So it's taken for granted that he understands the subject, and if he talks, even if he talks nonsense, you will follow what he says. And I'm going to give you a couple examples that I took from the book, from a book, from Chase Hughes. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. I'm going to say a sentence, okay? Okay. Half of all that isn't the same for everyone, even if they paid attention.
Half of all that isn't the same for everyone, even if they paid attention?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a non-sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, but
But it sounds it sounds like it makes sense. It just sounds like it makes sense. I'm going to give you another example. Next week looks just as warm as the week before. It wasn't like it is now.
Doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense for somebody who wants to hypnosis.
Right. So, following the confusion, the hypnosis wants his subject to follow with surrender. They don't know what's going on, they're following you. Focus, they're only thinking about one thing. Arousal, they're very motivated to do whatever you're going to tell them. Scarcity, like we don't know, there's not enough. And action taking. Now, we're telling you to do something, you go do it. Because if you don't do it now, you're going to lose your life. That kind of thing. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm analyzing all the tactics. So, once a human being is on the road, on the slope, it needs to keep on going. Like you said, one-way track, just keep on going, zooming down deeper and deeper into this hypnosis. Like we don't know where we are. And the purpose of the confusion is to use it in order to deliver a command. Okay? So the confusion is the best weapon that you have in your tools to make the person do whatever you want them to do. So you get them confused. Another tool for confusion is to ask people to recall data. Okay? You tell them, you remember this? You see this number, that number, this number, mathematical calculation. It creates an overload on the people's brain, maybe not on yours.
So make people confused. They're confused.
Yeah, if you have a lot of numbers, people can't follow you anymore. It's just like getting so confused.
Too much information.
Yeah, yeah. For me also, you gave me numbers, like I can't keep track of numbers.
So taking control over the person.
That's right. So, and another technique that they use is emotive fractionation. So, like, you know, it means like, okay, we're going to say very sad. This is very sad. People are crying. This like so desperate, so sad. And then you're just going to talk about the weather report. And then you're going to say, okay, now we're going to tell you about this, what happened in that place. And that's it. You go say very sad. And then you're going to put a small item that feels good, you know, okay, the stock exchange, whatever, things like that. And then you break again with a stressful situation. You change topic. You go back and forth from stress to relax, from stress to relax. The person feels like now going into a stressful story is okay. We're used to it. We go from one thing to the other. And this is the way that all these things is being used. And telling people to do one thing and then telling people to do another. Like, do we open? Do we not open? Do we close? Oh, but now there is this. The complete confusion going on and off. Okay, after many useful tricks, the hypnosis now is going to embed suggestion to affect the change in a way that each individual is going to respond to. Make sense? Because that's the purpose. You want them to respond to the suggestion. Mm-hmm. So you have an outcome that you want. Let's say the person who came because he wanted to stop smoking. That's an outcome. But they say they want you to do something else. So they're going to give you a suggestion what you have to do because that's what they want you to do. Remember, in the Tower of Babel, you know, the leaders, they had the interest in mind. You think they had the people's interest in mind? No, because why didn't what they said when the people died? No. So people was not important. What was important that people were following orders and putting money in their pockets. So the rule number one, subjects are programmed in such a way they believe that they're acting on their own thing. Okay, I'm going to put on something. I'm going to stay home. It's my idea. You notice, it's a stay-at-home order. If you go out in the street, nothing will happen. But if you stay home, you choose to stay home, right? A stay-home order means you choosing to do it. If you go out, you don't get a ticket. I mean, now they have curfew in some countries, that's even worse. But you feel like you're doing something good for the good of people. Okay, you being a good person. And being a good person is always very attractive. So the process leads to action. You control the thought. You check that they're steering in the right direction. Now you arrive at the exit because now they're behaving the way that you want them to behave. And all your hard work paid off. The people, why are they acting the way you want? They are excited. They're excited. They're fearful. They're scared. They want to avoid regret. People don't want to take a chance because maybe, like somebody said to me, but on 0.1% of people that I don't want to be that 0.1% of people that I. Therefore, I'm going to make myself like a zombie in my house. They want to avoid regret. They had videos that were absolutely disgraceful of, you know, people visiting their grandparents, and then they show the video the grandparents died, and now the young girl is so sad because she caused the death of the grandparents. Like, it could be from anyone, from anything, but they make people feel like you're gonna regret it if you don't act like that. And then they want you to follow orders. They got, you know, people they are now behaving a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then you go so used to it that it triggers. You know, like people now, they're walking with their mask and they you know, they go out, they take their mask, like, take the mask, take the mask. It becomes now ingrained. It becomes a second nature. Now you got completely transformed the way they want you to do. And remember, when they tell you, for example, social distancing, because somebody said it's not a social distancing, it's a physical distancing. We want to be socially close to the people that we love and we like. They call it social distancing because they do want to be socially distancing, basically, yes. They're saying outright. They don't want you to be physically distant. They want you to be socially distant. And anything that will help with that, they're going to make you do it. And you think that it's a good idea. And again, like I said, the power of the image, the power of the visualization that goes deeper and deeper in the brain, this is something that is that people have seen so much in our days, because you see moving videos, you see videos that are live. You don't see even a picture, it's not black and white, it's a moving thing, it's on a big screen, and you see it over and over and over and over again, and it affects people. And that's basically what they want. They want to control you by putting inside your mind pictures of danger, picture of this, picture of that. So this is a complete indoctrination. Basically, if you wanted to make somebody adhere to a cult, you would do the same similar steps. Like what I described to you, somebody, let's say, want to do something good for themselves, like stop smoking, for example. But you have to know that all these steps that I just told you, go over them and you will see that there's the exact same steps that whole nations and populations have been entranced, put into a trance to follow and to obey orders and to be at the stage they're at. So now if somebody wants to reclaim their freedom, if the first thing to know is to understand how this is right, for what the system is doing. And realize that, you know, if you want your freedom, you don't have to go and listen to what other people are saying, and you don't have to, because basically we're free human beings, and if we have to fight a fight for our freedom, freedom has a price. Freedom is not free. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching.